Hi, Michael here. Welcome back to the channel on April 12th, the second trading day after the long Easter weekend, where after all the stock exchanges have closed quite positive yesterday evening, we see a very varied opening and trading experience in Europe today, where most of the stock exchanges in Europe are in the green. There's a few that have very slight losses today as well. And we'll go into that in a bit more detail when we look at the dashboard. It does lead to a large number of shifts in the watch list, which means that it's a very good idea today to have a look at the top five in there, and we'll do that after we've had a look what's going on in the markets. What I would have expected as a bigger impact today than that there has been is the news issued by the MIF yesterday evening that they expect the global inflation for 2023 to end up at 7%, which is quite high, and more important, that they expect the inflation to be very high for the years to come. I would have expected a much more negative impact on the stock exchanges than we see today. And the reason why that is not the case is that most of the investors are grabbing and holding on to the expectation that the interest rates have reached a peak for now, and maybe even for the rest of this year. So they'll be postponing their worries for next year or the year after. We'll see whether that is a wise decision or not. In either case, let's do hope that 23 becomes a little bit more positive on the stock exchanges than we have seen in 21 and 22. And all the indicators are actually in there, so it should be possible. Looking at the dashboard, then we see that the file is fairly up to date with about 90% of the shares updated. We see again that the part of the pie with shares having a rating of accumulate or buy is growing again. There's been a few weeks where that was not the case, and the share of the shares with accumulate or buy are growing at the expense of the reduced part and not at the expense of the whole. So that's good news as well. Yesterday we did not see very much extreme changes on the US markets with a top mover of BuyGene of 7.22%, which is not really impressive. On the other hand, it's also realistic. When we see these changes in a daily basis of 30 to 40%, then clearly something's wrong. Looking at the sweet spot, 8 shares in the sweet spot today, and I remind you that the sweet spot in my definition are those shares with a spread between the current price and the first resistance of at least 10%. That's completely arbitrary, but it's the choice that I've made. More important is that we see quite a bit of shares in the sweet spot today that have been there yesterday and even before the Easter weekend. So that suggests some stability in there, and that makes looking into the top five of the sweet spot actually more relevant than on other times. And that's exactly what we will do today. I've already sorted the file for you, and here we have these 8 shares that are in the sweet spot. Does it mean it doesn't make sense looking at the number 9 one here with a spread of 9.76% being Exelixis? No, of course that is not the case. But if you want to focus, you need to focus somewhere. You need to start somewhere. These 8 having a very nice spreads between 10.13 and 19.86%, and I apologize in advance for the airplanes coming over, which I cannot do much about. But what is much more important than these percentages is that from these 8 shares, there are 4 of them, and it's these 4 that have this green label attached to them that are looking at a very short-term technical catch-up ahead. So it means if you have the time and if your professional investment advisor agrees with that, it makes very good sense and it's worthwhile looking a bit more in detail in these 4 shares. And that's exactly what I'll be doing tomorrow, obviously starting with the first one, BioMarin, where I will do my own due diligence on the technical analysis that has been done and provided by my brokerage account, where I indeed want to validate that the first resistance that they are coming up with is indeed one that I would feel comfortable with, because that's obviously what's going to influence that spread over here. So BioMarin, the first one, with a very nice spread that is looking at a technical catch-up on the very short term, which does not mean that per definition you'll be making 90% profit if you invest in that, but at least it means that there's a horizon there. Second one that has this technical catch-up in the very short term is Gold Fields Limited. It's not unsurprising because in very uncertain markets, investors will flee into gold, and you will see together with me that the gold price is at an all-time high at the moment. So companies obviously being in the gold business will do very well in this period as well. Then the last two having the green tag here, which means that they're looking at a technical catch-up ahead in the very short term, are Abbott Laboratories and Vistra Corporation. Both still with very nice spreads of 11.05 and 10.53%. So I would say lots of opportunities ahead. Let's see what the opening in the US is going to bring later this afternoon in 2 hours and 58 minutes. I'll follow that up for you, and then we'll be back with an update and hopefully some nice results tomorrow. I hope you've enjoyed this little update on what are my top 5, or actually top 8 shares in the sweet spot today. For the followers on the channel, the 24 followers, and I congratulate you and salute you all 24. You will have noticed that I'm no longer every day pushing out these analyses on the stock exchange, basically because there's just not every day something relevant to share and to tell, and I'll not just push out videos for the heck of it. What I am doing is now, when I'm quite excited about that, every now and then, particularly on the days where I don't share the US analysis, putting out content videos on specific economic concepts, and I'd really invite you to have a look at them. One is a hit about the Deutsche Bank downfall, where I've reached for the first time, I believe, 360 views. Very proud of that. It's far from the millions of views that other channels have within 1 hour of posting, but then again, at least what I'm posting here is for real. If you do think it's attractive and help me by time becoming even better in that, please do consider subscribing to this very young channel. It will really help us be noticed by the YouTube algorithms. With that, thank you very much. We'll be back with a update tomorrow.